Most women don't fall because of looks alone, they fall because of emotional safety. A woman may ignore a man who tries too hard to impress her, but she slowly becomes attached to the man who makes her feel understood, respected, and emotionally calm. Desire grows when she feels seen without being pressured. Many men lose women by chasing attention instead of building emotional connection, and that creates distance instead of attraction. A woman becomes emotionally attached when she feels your absence emotionally, not when you beg for her presence physically. Real attraction often starts when a man values himself enough to stop forcing love. When you constantly seek validation, you appear emotionally dependent. But when you focus on your purpose, confidence, peace, and self-worth, she begins to notice your energy differently. Sometimes the moment you stop trying to win her is the moment she starts wondering about losing you. Heartbreak changes people, especially women who once trust ed deeply. Many women pull away not because they feel nothing, but because they are afraid of being hurt again. If you want a woman to desire you, understand her emotional wounds instead of fighting them. Patience, consistency, emotional maturity, and honesty create attachments stronger than temporary attraction. A woman may forget compliments, but she never forgets how safe or broken a man made her feel emotionally. He used to believe that love was about impressing a woman. He thought if he looked better, talked smoother, replied faster, and gave her enough attention, eventually she would choose him. Like many men, he confused attraction with effort, so he tried harder every single day. He stayed awake at night waiting for her messages, changed parts of himself just to keep her interested, and slowly turned his entire life into a performance built around her attention. At first, she liked him. She smiled at his jokes, enjoyed the late-night conversations, and made him feel noticed in Washington. Why, as he had never experienced before. But over time, something changed. The harder he chased, the colder she became. He couldn't understand it. He was giving everything. Most people would say that's what love is supposed to be, right? Sacrifice, obsession, constant reassurance. But what he didn't realize was that desperation has a feeling to it. Women can sense when a man is trying to earn love because deep down he doesn't feel worthy without it. And no matter how kind or attractive a person is, emotional neediness slowly pushes people away. Not because they are cruel, but because pressure never feels like peace. One evening, after another argument about why she seemed distant, she finally said something that stayed in his mind forever. She told him, "I don't feel calm around you anymore. I feel responsible for your happiness." That sentence broke him, because he realized he had stopped loving her naturally. Instead, he had made her his emotional oxygen. Every mood depended on her please. Every good day depended on her validation. Every moment of silence felt like rejection. He wasn't creating connection anymore, he was creating emotional weight. And the saddest part was that he truly believed he was loving her deeply. After the relationship ended, he spent months blaming her. He called her cold, confused, emotionally unavailable. But pain has a strange way of forcing honesty into people. One night, sitting alone with memories he could no longer escape, he finally admitted something to himself. He never actually felt safe within his own life. He was using love to fill emptiness he never healed. That realization changed everything. He stopped trying to become good enough for someone else and started rebuilding himself quietly. He began spending time alone without needing distractions. He worked on his confidence not to attract women, but because he was tired of abandoning himself for love. He started understanding that emotional strength is not about acting cold or pretending not to care. It's about being emotionally complete enough that love becomes a beautiful addition to your life instead of your entire identity. Months later, he unexpectedly saw her again. But this time, the energy was different. He wasn't trying to impress her anymore. He wasn't secretly begging for validation through every conversation. He listened calmly, spoke honestly, and carried a quiet confidence that didn't exist before. And strangely, she noticed it immediately. The man who once chased her desperately now felt emotionally grounded. There was peace in him. No pressure, no performance, just presence. That's when he finally understood something most people learn too late. Women often become emotionally attached to how a man makes them feel around him. Not how loudly he desires them, but how emotionally safe they feel in his presence. Safety is rare in modern relationships. Many people bring anxiety, insecurity, control, jealousy, and emotional chaos into low V, then wonder why connection disappears. But emotional safety feels different. It feels like honesty without fear, attention without control, love without emotional manipulation. A woman may ignore compliments she hears every day, but she never forgets the man who made her nervous system feel calm. And the truth is, emotional calm only comes from people who are at peace with themselves first. That's why self-worth matters so much in relationships. When a man secretly feels unworthy, he starts overgiving, overthinking, and overreacting. He fears losing the relationship because he believes losing her means losing himself. But when a man respects his own life, his own purpose, and his own emotional health, love flows differently. He no longer begs for connection. He creates it naturally. The irony is painful. The more he tried to force love before, the more love escaped him. But the moment he stopped chasing validation and started healing himself, he became someone people felt emotion. Nally safe around. Not because he learned tricks or manipulation, but because pain finally taught him emotional maturity. That's the part nobody talks about. Real attraction is deeply emotional. A woman's heart rarely opens fully to a man who only wants attention from her. It opens to the man who understands emotions, respects boundaries, and creates peace instead of emotional exhaustion. Because at the end of the day, people don't stay where they feel pressured. They stay where they feel emotionally safe enough to be themselves. There was a time when he thought love meant holding on tighter. If a woman became distant, he gave more attention. If she replied less, he sent longer messages. If she seemed emotionally unavailable, he worked harder to prove he cared. He believed persistence could create connection, and that if he loved deeply enough, eventually she would realize his value. But what he didn't understand was that constant chasing slowly destroys attraction, because love can't. Ought breathe when one person is trying to force it to survive. She was the kind of woman who seemed impossible to forget. Her voice became part of his routine. Her presence made ordinary days feel meaningful. Even the smallest moments with her felt important to him. And like many people who love too deeply, he started making her the center of his emotional world without realizing it. His happiness began depending on her mood. A simple delayed reply could ruin his entire day. When she was warm, he felt alive. When she became distant, he felt abandoned. At first, she enjoyed the attention. Most people do. Being desired feels comforting in the beginning. But over time, she started pulling away emotionally. Not because he was a bad man, but because she could feel how emotionally dependent he had become. Every conversation carried invisible pressure. Every moment felt loaded with expectation. She no longer felt free around him. She felt responsible for keeping him emotionally stable. One end. Right after another painful argument about why she seemed disconnected, she finally admitted something he never expected to hear. She told him, "I miss who you were before you became afraid of losing me." That sentence stayed with him for months, because deep down he knew she was right. Before falling in love, he had dreams, discipline, confidence, and peace. He laughed more naturally. He focused on his goals. He had a life that felt meaningful on its own. But somewhere along the way, he abandoned himself trying to keep someone else emotionally close. Love slowly turned into fear. Fear of being replaced, fear of not being enough, fear of losing the only person who made him feel valuable. And the sad truth is, people can feel when you stop valuing yourself. After the relationship ended, he completely fell apart. The silence hurt more than the arguments ever did. He checked her social media obsessively, replayed old conversations in his head, and blamed himself for every mistake. He wanted another chance so badly that he would have done anything just to hear her say she missed him too. But heartbreak has a brutal way of revealing truths people spend years avoiding. One morning, exhausted from months of emotional pain, he looked at himself honestly for the first time. He realized he had spent the entire relationship trying to be chosen instead of choosing himself. He had built his self-worth around someone else's attention, and the moment that attention disappeared, so did his sense of identity. That realization hurt more than the breakup itself. So instead of chasing her again, he decided to rebuild the parts of himself he abandoned. Not to make her jealous, not to win her back, but because he was tired of feeling emotionally empty whenever love disappeared. He started focusing on his physical health, his work, his friendships, and the quiet parts of life he ignored while obsessing over the relationship. Slowly, he learned how to sit alone without feeling broken. He learned that loneliness and peace are not the same thing. For the first time in years, he stopped trying to convince someone to stay, and something unexpected happened. The less he chased validation, the calmer he became. The calmer he became, the more confident he felt. And the more confident he felt, the more people naturally gravitated toward him. Not because he was pretending not to care, but because he finally understood that emotional dependence pushes love away while self-respect quietly attracts it. Months later, she reached out unexpectedly. The old version of him would have replied instantly with emotional excitement and hidden desperation. But this time, he responded calmly. Not cold, not arrogant, just emotionally balanced. During their conversation, she noticed something different immediately. He wasn't trying to pull love out of her anymore. He wasn't emotionally begging beneath his words. He had become someone who valued his own peace. And ironically, that was the version of him she felt drawn toward again. That's the painful lesson many people learn too late. Attraction often grows in the space where self-worth exists. When someone makes another person their entire emotional world, the relationship becomes heavy. But when someone has purpose, confidence, boundaries, and emotional stability, love feels lighter and safer. A woman may appreciate attention, but deep desire often begins when she sees that a man respects himself enough not to lose his identity for love. There's something powerful about a person who can love deeply without abandoning themselves in the process. That kind of energy feels rare because most relationships today are built on emotional dependency instead of emotional balance. People think attraction is about saying the perfect words or looking a certain way, but often the deepest attraction comes from emotional energy. From knowing someone wants you without needing you to survive emotionally. From feeling chosen, instead of emotionally trapped. He spent years believing love meant holding on tighter, but heartbreak taught him something different. Sometimes the moment you stop chasing people for validation is the moment you finally become someone worth choosing. Because the strongest love is never built on desperation, it's built on two people who already know their own worth before they hold each other's hearts. She looked strong on the outside. That was the first thing people noticed about her. She smiled easily, carried herself with confidence, and rarely let anyone see her emotional struggles. Most people assumed she had moved on from her past because she never talked about it. But the truth was, heartbreak had changed the way she loved. Long before he met her, someone had taught her that giving your heart completely could leave permanent scars. The man before him had promised forever. He made her feel chosen, safe, and deeply connected. For years, she trusted him with the softest parts of herself. She believed in the future they talked about late at night. She ignored small red flags because love made her hopeful. But betrayal rarely arrives loudly in the beginning. It slowly reveals itself through distance, dishonesty, and emotional neglect until one day the person you trusted most becomes the reason you stop trusting yourself. When she discovered he had been lying to her for months, something inside her broke quietly. Not dramatically, not all at once. It was the kind of pain that changes the nervous system. After that relationship ended, she became emotionally different. She still wanted love, but she no longer believed love was safe. Then she met him. At first, she kept her distance emotionally. She answered messages carefully, avoided talking too much about her feelings, and never allowed herself to seem too attached. He noticed it immediately. There was sadness hidden beneath her independence, but he didn't judge her for it. Most people would have called her cold or emotionally unavailable, but he sensed something deeper. She wasn't heartless. She was protecting wounds nobody else took time to understand. In the beginning, he almost ruined everything without realizing it. Whenever she pulled away emotionally, he took it personally. If she needed space, he assumed she was losing interest. If she became quiet after emotional conversations, he thought she didn't care enough. His insecurity kept making him react emotionally to her fear. Sometimes he demanded reassurance when she was already struggling internally. Sometimes he pressured her to open up faster than she was ready to, and slowly she began retreating again. One night after an argument, she finally broke down crying in front of him for the first time. She told him something he would never forget. "I'm tired of feeling like I have to heal at your speed just to be loved." That sentence changed the way he understood relationships forever, because for the first time he realized, love is not only about receiving affection. Sometimes real love means understanding the invisible pain another person carries into the relationship. Everyone talks about wanting loyalty, honesty, and emotional connection, but very few people know how to love someone whose heart has already been broken before they arrived. From that moment on, he stopped trying to fix her emotions and started becoming emotionally safer for her instead. He became more patient during her silent moments. He stopped forcing difficult conversations when she emotionally shut down. Instead of reacting defensively to her fears, he listened calmly. Instead of demanding proof of love every day, he allowed trust to grow naturally over time. And little by little, she started changing, not because he saved her, but because she no longer felt emotionally unsafe around him. That's something many people misunderstand about women and emotional attachment. A woman who has been deeply hurt may still crave love in silly, but fear controls her actions. She may pull away after getting close. She may struggle to trust compliments, promises, or consistency because betrayal taught her that people can change without warning. Sometimes the woman who seems the most distant is actually the one fighting hardest against the fear of being hurt again. But patience creates emotional safety in ways pressure never can. Over time, she started opening parts of herself she had hidden from the world. She laughed more freely. She stopped overthinking every disagreement. She no longer felt the need to test whether he would leave after difficult moments. For the first time in years, she felt emotionally calm inside a relationship instead of constantly anxious. And strangely, that emotional safety created deeper attraction between them than physical appearance ever could. Because attachment is rarely built only through passion. Real emotional attachment grows when someone consistently proves they will not weaponize your vulnerability against you. It grows when honesty remains during difficult moments. It grows when patience replaces emotional control. It grows when someone feels accepted even with their fears. He learned something important through loving her. Most women are not asking for perfection. They are asking for emotional consistency. They want to feel emotionally protected, not emotionally managed. A woman can survive heartbreak alone, but the man she deeply attaches to is usually the one who helps her feel safe enough to stop surviving all the time. And the truth is, this changed him too. Before her, he believed strength meant appearing unaffected. He thought relationships were about being desired, admired, and emotionally needed. But loving someone with emotional scars taught him maturity. He learned that real masculinity is not about controlling emotions, it's about creating stability within them. It's about remaining calm when someone else is afraid. It's about understanding Had healing does not happen through pressure, but through trust repeated consistently over time. Years later, he would still remember the moment she looked at him one evening and said softly, "You're the first person who made love feel peaceful instead of painful." And maybe that's what real love actually is. Not butterflies, not obsession, not emotional games. Just two wounded people slowly learning that love was never supposed to feel like fear in the first place. Because the deepest attachment a woman can feel is not toward the man who impressed her the most, but toward the man who made her heart finally feel safe enough to rest.